Chakracharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupaswarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhaktashaktikam Vasudevasutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Narayanam Namaskritya Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Sarvebhyo Namaha Sarvesham Krite Namaskaraha. Welcome to this session. We are now in the middle of the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. In the last session, we did the first 4 shlokas of the 15th chapter. And in today's session, we will do 2 more shlokas, and then we will also listen to a very interesting narrative from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, as I begin, I will quickly recollect one point I made in the last session, and this was about our consciousness. Why do we study the Bhagavad Gita? Ultimately, it's about refining and purifying our consciousness. Our consciousness is our priceless treasure. It's our most valuable treasure because it's through our consciousness that we exist and through which we experience our own life existence. You can say that all the experiences we have, whether they are desirable experiences, undesirable ones, good, bad, the pleasurable ones, the painful ones, everything happens through our consciousness. So through appropriately realigning our consciousness, we can experience the happiness that the Bhagavad Gita describes that we can get. The Gita tells us that we are entitled to eternal happiness. It is our natural right. Just like in our country, we say freedom is our birthright. Now, even more than what we call political freedom is our natural state of happiness, which always exists inside us, but we don't always experience it currently. So how can we go to that state by which we can always experience it? That is what the Bhagavad Gita tries to tell us. And the simple answer to that is to rediscover ourself. Discover ourselves by removing our material covering and experiencing our connection with Sri Bhagavan. So this is the process. And now going forward, we talk about material consciousness. Material consciousness is what the Bhagavad Gita describes in the 15th chapter. In the first 4 shlokas of the 15th chapter, Sri Bhagavan has talked about the nature of material existence as an inverted Ashwatha tree, inverted people tree. He says that this existence is like that because the roots are pointing upwards, the branches point downwards, the leaves are the hymns of the Veda of this tree. The roots are pointing upwards because this tree, material existence, comes into existence because of its connection with Bhagavan, who's above us, who's always above the material existence. The branches represent our expansion in this material world, and the leaves are the Veda because they help us to find a proper way of living in this material world. The sense objects that we experience and that make our material existence actually, happen are the sprouts and the shoots on these branches. Then there are something called prop roots. The prop roots spread below, and they represent various types of human karma. And it is the Gita Bhagavan says that neither the origin nor the foundation nor the end of this tree is known, by which he means that our own material existence has existed or has been since eternity. There is no starting point. There is no time t equal to 0. It is time t equal to minus infinity, or there is no starting point. It has always existed. It's beyond time. So now it's possible to end it. It doesn't have to go till infinity, plus infinity. It can be ended very soon. And that is what the Gita is saying. So Shri Bhagavan says that one must chop this tree down with the weapon of detachment. Okay. Okay, now going forward, this is the last shloka that we read in the Bhagavad-Gita, 15th chapter, the 4th shloka. Sri Bhagavan says one must chop down that material, that tree of material existence. So he says, Tatav padam tat parimargitavyam yasmin gata na nivartanti bhuyaha tameva chadyam purusham prapadye yataf pravrittihi prasrita purani. So what he's saying is that the material consciousness that we currently experience, it's also called sansara. Sansarati, one is constantly transmigrating from one body to another body. One is constantly moving in this material consciousness. One must put an end to it, and one must find out or seek out that state of existence, that pure state of existence from which one will never return back to the material state of existence. And one must take refuge in that Adipurusha, that is Sri Bhagavan himself. So Sri Bhagavan is always in that state of existence. By connecting with him, we also go to that state of existence and we don't have to come back to our material life again. Okay, so that's a beautiful conclusion. Now going forward, then the next shloka he says, Nirmana moha chita sangadosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kamaha dvandvair vimuktaha sukha dukkha samyair gacchantya padamavyayam tat. So, how do we go to that state of existence, that pure state of existence from our current state? He says, Nirmana mohaha. One should be free from all delusion, and mana means the craving for respect and honor, right? Jita sanga doshaha. One should be free from material attachments. Adhyatma nityaha. One should be always absorbed in that knowledge. One should know how to go to that place and what that state of existence is. One should be thinking about that knowledge. Vinivritta kamaha. One should be free from the desires for material pleasures. Dvandvai vimuktaha. Dvandvai means, dvandvaha means the dualities we experience in this material existence by saying, this is pleasurable, this is uncomfortable, that is desirable. This is good, that is bad. This person is my friend, that person is my enemy. This kind of duality, right? So one should become free from such dualities. And sukha dukkha samyaihi dvandvaihi gachanti amudaha padamavyayam tat. So one who is engaged in activities by which one moves towards that consciousness. Okay, activities like our sadhana, our bhajan, our kirtan, our namajap, reading of shastra. So these kind of activities which pertain to reviving that consciousness. By doing that, one attains that pure state of consciousness. One overcomes one's material consciousness and one attains that pure state of consciousness. So I will read the translation once more. Those with the knowledge of that state of existence and how to get there, who are free from delusion and the craving for respect and honor, are free from material attachments, are free from the desires for material pleasure, are free from dualities such as pleasurable and miserable, and are engaged daily in activities pertaining to the pure self, attain that state, that pure state. So then Sri Bhagavan says, Na tat bhasayate suryo, na shashanko na pavakaha, yad gatva na nivartante, tadhama paramam mama. So he describes that state of existence, that pure state. He says, in that pure state, one does not need any external illumination. In our current material existence, we need some external illumination. We are not illuminating ourselves. In the daytime, we depend upon the sun. In the nighttime, in the darkness, we depend upon artificial lights. At least we depend upon a lamp. Before electricity was invented, we were only depending upon diya, lamp. Then we invented electricity and now we depend upon electricity to light us up. But once we attain that pure state, which is actually inside us, okay, na tad bhasayate suryo, that doesn't depend upon the sun. The sun does not illuminate that consciousness. Na shashanka, the moon, it doesn't depend on the moon also. Na pavakaha, not even fire. So neither the sun nor moon nor fire are required to illuminate one in that state of consciousness. Why? Because that state of consciousness is self-illuminating. It is bright. It is full of light by itself. So one does not depend on any external light. It is full of brightness, knowledge, clarity, happiness. Yad gatva na nivartante. One who reaches that state does not come back to their material consciousness, because once we reach there, we permanently remain there. Tad dhama paramam mama. He says, that is my state of existence, because I am always like that. He explains. He is always in that state of consciousness. So that is my paramam dhama. Dhama in Sanskrit also means an abode or a place of residence. So here we can understand that state of consciousness is what he is referring to as his place of residence, not some physical place like Jamshedpur or Kolkata or Bangalore, but he is referring to his state of consciousness as the residence, because actually we reside in our consciousness. Our consciousness is our seat of residence, it's our place of existence, right? So he says, once you reach that, you're actually reaching me. You're reaching the state of existence in which I am always present. Neither the sun nor the moon nor fire illuminates that state of existence. Those who obtain it do not return to their earlier state. That state is my supreme abode. So it is, to give you a crude analogy to appreciate this better, it is very simple. It is not something very abstract or esoteric that Sri Bhagavan is describing here. It is just like, now for example, many of you are trying to become PhD, right? Now you don't have a PhD, you are not a PhD right now, but you want to become one. So you are doing the appropriate process, you're following the appropriate process by doing courses, working on a thesis, and so on. Now, after doing all that, following that process properly, in the proper way in which it is meant to be followed, eventually one day you will be awarded a PhD, right? And once you get a PhD, from then onwards, you are known as Dr. So-and-so. You are called a PhD, right? And after that, there will never be a time when you are not a PhD, because you already have got a PhD, right? You will never go back to that previous state when you are not having a PhD. It's as simple as that. So once you have a PhD, then lifelong you remain a PhD, regardless of what else you do. You may not do any further education. You may not do anything else. You may not even have a job, whatever. Whether you have a job or you don't have a job, whatever you do, if you have a PhD, you don't go back to the earlier state of not having a PhD. So in the same way, once one attains this state of consciousness, the pure spiritual state, or in other words, once one discovers one's own pure internal state of consciousness, then one never goes back to the material state of consciousness, which we are currently experiencing. So this is the beauty of this process. Once it is done only once, and once you do it, you remain there forever. Okay, that is why he is inspiring us to try to come to that state of existence. So what is the process? And like we have been discussing in every class, we have been listening to Bhagavata Katha, okay, the narratives of Sri Bhagavan, because it's only by connecting with him, he is in that pure state, and his followers, his disciples, our gurus, the acharyas who have actually attained that state, through them, by connecting with them, by listening to them, by hearing them, by following their instructions sincerely, by serving them, doing seva to them, we develop that consciousness. That consciousness is uncovered inside us. We are able to overcome our material consciousness. So in this, one of the important processes is to listen to the narratives of Bhagavan, and that is easy for us. That's a process that is very easy to do because Bhagavata is available to us, and all we have to do is read it, narrate it, listen to it, and appreciate it. So we've been listening to a story from the Bhagavatam every week, and in the last session we heard about Sri Bhagavan as a little child, a tender little child. He and his brother Balaram, who actually he is himself. Balaram and he are not different from each other. Balaram is another form of Krishna. So Balaram kills Dhenukasura, the asura who comes in the form of an ass, of a donkey, and he kills him, and then he gives a lot of relief to people. So let's go forward from there. After Dhenukasura's killing, what happens? So the story begins with a hot summer monsoon season in which Krishna and his friends, his gopas, little gopas, they once go to the bank of the Yamuna. And here, because of the heat, it's the month of July, August, it's called Jeshta Ashad. And the cows and the gopas, they're very thirsty, they're very tired. And therefore, out of that tiredness, they go and drink the water of Yamuna. But they are not aware that at that point of time, the water actually has been poisoned. There is a dangerous poison inside it. They fall unconscious as if devoid of all life. So when that happens, their dear friend Krishna, he's also called Yogeshwara because he's the master of all the yogis, and he's their life, he's their prana, and he's their all in all. So he glances at them with kindness out of great concern, and immediately, because of his nectarine glance, he revives them, and they rise and they look at each other in astonishment. They don't know what has happened. They know that they were at one point drinking that water, and then they don't know what happened. Now they're all standing up and looking at each other. So after this, what happens? So here is this little question by Parikshit, because this is narrated by Shuka Muni, the great sage Shuka, the son of Vyasdev ji, and he's narrating this to Parikshit. And so Parikshit asks him, he says, "This is so wonderful to hear. Can anyone ever be satiated after listening to this munificent nature of Krishna?" Munificent means one who is very generous. Munificence means generosity, or the propensity to give liberally to others without taking anything in return for oneself. So this is Krishna's nature, and as we hear this, we become more and more curious to hear, more stories of Sri Bhagavan. So the extremely poisonous snake Kaliya lives in a kunda. Kunda means a pond of Yamuna, which is flowing beside Vrindavan. Now, this powerful poison, it's so strong that it makes the water boil. It makes it effervescent, and because of that effervescence, the vapors are rising from the surface of the lake, and it kills even the birds flying over it. The droplets carried by the wind, they kill the grass, the plants, the trees, the animals, and the birds around that kunda. So that poison is spreading all over, and it's causing enormous damage in the very beautiful and peaceful place called Vrindavan. So Kaliya's presence in that kunda is a major nuisance to all the living beings there. So a question that comes now is, how does this snake, this poisonous Kaliya, get there in the first place? How does he happen to be in Vrindavan? Vrindavan is not meant to be a place where these kind of creatures live. So there is this nice story given in the Bhagavatam itself, where the two wives of the sage Kashyapa, Vinata and Kadru, they're actually sisters. Kadru is the elder sister and Vinata is her younger sister. They both married to the great Prajapati Kashyapa. And Kashyapa Rishi bestows them with children, and he asks them what they want. And Kadru says, "I want to have 1,000 children who are Nagas, but they have short lives." Mother Vinata, she asks for just 2 children and they will live much longer. But her children take longer time to come. So there is a story by which her elder son, whose name is Aruna, so he is born without legs. His lower part of his body is not yet developed. But her younger son, which is Garuda, is fully developed. She waits more patiently and he is developed. Okay, now coming to our story, Vinata and Kadru, they both have a conflict with each other. Okay, Vinata is the mother of Garuda, and Kadru, she is the mother of the Sarpas, the Nagas, the snakes. So knowing this, knowing that there is a conflict between his mother and Mother Kadru, his mother's elder sister, Garuda is not very happy. He is a little annoyed and he eats any sarpa. The sarpas actually are his cousins, but he eats any sarpa that he finds. And we also know that birds like vultures and eagles, even today in this material world, they eat snakes, right? Snakes are their diet. So in this world too, Garuda eats the sarpas. So these sarpas, the nagas, they are actually now very scared of him because he's very powerful. He's the Vahana of Vishnu himself. So they seek Brahmaji's help. And after his guidance, they agree to a negotiation with Garuda. They negotiate with him and they tell him that don't eat us like that randomly because we want to live peacefully. So we will give you one sarpa, one of us from each family. By rotation, we will offer ourselves to you, and we will offer ourselves on one Amavasya. Every successive Amavasya, you will get one of us to eat. And so that is agreeable. Garuda accepts that, and and this goes on. Now, in the process, there is this one son of Kadru by name Kaliya, and Kaliya is not happy about it. So Kaliya, he's so arrogant, he's very powerful also, he's very arrogant, and he opposes this whole idea. So what he does is, even before Garuda can eat what is offered to him, he goes and eats that sarpa. He goes and eats what is kept for Garuda's consumption. And he doesn't like the idea that Garuda should be given so much respect. After all, he is his younger cousin, right? So this makes Garuda very angry. So what he does is, out of anger, he approaches Kaliya, and Kaliya and the Nagas are staying in a place called Ramanaka Dvipa. That's one place in this material existence, as described in the Bhagavatam. He stays there, and so he approaches Kaliya, and he attacks him. He attacks Kaliya. So Kaliya also is a very angry person, and so out of his fury, he raises all his hoods. He has 101 hoods. Okay, he's not a single hooded snake. He's got so many different hoods, and he's got 101 hoods. And with all those hoods and with great anger, he bites Garuda. And then what happens? Garuda, of course, is not going to let go. So he's extremely powerful, he's very strong. So when Kaliya attacks him like that, he throws him off. And then he strikes him very hard. He gives him one big blow with his left wing. He gives him a huge blow with the left wing, and Kaliya is severely injured. And out of that fear of further getting injured, he flees from that Ramanaka Dvipa and goes to that kunda beside Yamuna. He takes refuge in that kunda. That kunda is very deep, and Garuda, he knows, does not come there. Garuda stays away from that kunda because of a particular Muni by name Saubhari Muni. Saubhari Muni has cursed him. So why has Saubhari Muni cursed Garuda? This is because earlier Garuda had gone to that same kunda and he had eaten the fish which was living there. He had eaten actually the king of all the fishes in that kunda. He found that fish and he liked it. So he picked up that fish and he ate up that fish. So the other fishes in that kunda, they went to Saubhari Muni and they sought refuge from him. They said, please protect us. This Garuda is coming here and killing us. So please give us your protection. So as a result, Saubhari Muni cursed Garuda, saying that if Garuda came there again, then he would die immediately. So Garuda knows this, and because Saubhari Muni is a great Muni, he doesn't want to violate that curse. He says that this Muni's words will come true, and to respect that Muni's words, he doesn't go there. He doesn't want to try to counter that curse in any manner. After all, he can get his food anywhere. He's the carrier of Vishnu himself, right? So he doesn't have to worry about it. So he doesn't bother to counter Saubhari Muni. He just says, okay, that's fine. I won't go to that kunda again. So now Kaliya knows this, and so Kaliya goes to that kunda next to Yamuna and he takes shelter in that kunda. So being there, Kaliya is very safe from Garuda and he knows Garuda will not trouble him. So living in that kunda, because he's a very wicked person by heart, his poison spreads. He's very poisonous and his poison spreads all around and kills other creatures very, very mercilessly. And Kaliya represents actually, you can say, any person with a bad character. It need not be a snake, it can be a human being also. And we see actually human beings who have a bad character, who have bad qualities in them, who are wicked by nature or who are duplicitous by nature. Wherever they live, they spread their bad nature around. They influence people in bad ways. They turn the mind of people against others. They do politics. They do all kinds of wicked things, and their presence actually destroys a place which might have been good earlier. Even a good and peaceful place is actually completely spoiled by the presence of a wicked-hearted person, and they should be removed from there. So Kaliya represents such a kind of person in this narrative. So what happens after that? Now Krishna, he has just rescued his Gopa friends, and so he comes to realize that this snake Kaliya is actually causing so much disturbance in Vrindavan, and he is very deeply concerned about it. He knows that Kaliya's poison will keep increasing if he is allowed to stay there. He is intensely poisonous and he will continue to pollute, and his pollution will kill several more living beings. It will become a permanent nuisance for not only his friends but so many other people and living beings around. So what does Sri Krishna do to remedy this? So what he does, he climbs a tall Kadamba tree. Right next to that kunda is a tall Kadamba tree, and he shouts from the top. He calls out loudly, and then he jumps right into that kunda. So I want you to visualize a small boy who is about 6 to 6.5 years of age, maybe between 6.5 and 7 years of age, very young, very tender, a little boy. He's playing with his friends, and suddenly, when he realizes this, he just climbs the tree, a tall kadamba tree, and jumps from that tree right into that kunda, shouting loudly. So, even as his friends are watching, they don't know why he has done that. So, he splashes down with a huge impact. Because actually, Krishna is not a little boy. He appears to us like a little boy, but he is Swayam Bhagavan himself. So the force of his fall into that kunda causes a huge splash. And the water, which was already very effervescent with that poison of that snake, now rises very high and spreads all around. That splash spreads all around. So after falling in that water, what does Krishna do? So he behaves like a powerful elephant king. So what does he do? He splashes wildly. So you can imagine that a huge tusker elephant has gone into a lake and it's playing in that lake with water and it's splashing that water all around. So he splashes wildly in that water and that amplifies the turbulence of that water. So his vigorous and wild splashing makes loud sounds that spread everywhere. Kalia, who is inside that kunda, he hears these sounds and he knows that something has come and disturbed, and so he can't tolerate it. He's like already very angry, so he wants to know that he wants to know what is it that's disturbing me. He thinks somebody has encroached. Let me go and figure out who has done this. So he comes out and he comes to the surface of the water and he sees Krishna and he sees him splashing aggressively in the water. So what exactly does he see? Sri Vasudevji describes this. He says, Tam prekshaniya sukumara ghanavadatam Srivatsapita vasanam smita sundarasyam क्रीडन्तम अप्रतिभयं कमलोदराङ्घ्रिं सन्दश्य मर्मसुरुषा भुजया चछाद तं प्रेक्षणीय सुकुमार घनावदातं श्रीवत्सपीतवसनं स्मितसुन्दरास्यं क्रीडन्तमप्रतिभयं कमलोदराङ्घ्रिं सन्दश्य मर्मसुरुषा भुजया चछाद. So what Kalia saw, and then what did he do after that? So he says he saw a sight, prekshaniya, means that which ought to be seen by everyone. And what was that? Sukumara Ghanavadatam. Sukumara means a very tender boy, a very soft, tender boy, a little child, a tender little child he saw. Ghanavadatam. Ghana means intense or dense. Avadatam means beautiful, very densely beautiful, intensely beautiful, soft, tender child. He saw that child in front of him. And what was the child having? Srivatsa Pitavasanam means on the mark of that, on the body of that child was the mark of what is called Srivatsa. Srivatsa refers to a small set of hair on the body of Vishnu, on the chest of Vishnu. It's called Srivatsa. And Pitavasanam, he was wearing yellowish garments. Smita Sundarasyam, he was actually, his face, Asya means face, beautiful face, Sundarasyam, very charming face. Smita means he was smiling. He was gently smiling. Okay, he was splashing around in the water, a tender little boy, and he was having a very gentle smile on his beautiful face. Kridantam, he was playing. He was very playing. He was just playing freely. He was playing freely. Apratibhayam means absolutely no fear. He was fearlessly playing. He was not thinking, I'm going to drown now, somebody will come and attack me. Nothing. He was fearlessly playing in that water. Kamalodharangrim. He saw the feet of that little child. It was like as soft, Kamalodharangrim, like a soft inside of a lotus, the soft inner cavity of a lotus. Kamalodharangrim. His feet were like that soft inner cavity of a lotus. He saw all this, saw this beautiful form of Krishna. You see, this kind of a form of Krishna we can only hear from people like Vyasdevji. People like you and me are hearing this, but he got to see it. Even great yogis, they do a lot of tapasya with the hope that one day they will be able to see this, but they cannot see it. But Kaliya got the blessing that despite his wickedness, he could see this beautiful form of Krishna. But at the same time, because of his extreme wickedness, what did he do? How did he respond to it? Sandashya marmasu rusha bhujaya chachada. He went with great anger and he bit that child on the chest. On the chest of the child, he went and bit him because so many people he had killed earlier, so many living beings he had killed earlier. So naturally, that was what he would do. He went and bit the child on his chest with great anger. Rusha, Bhujaya Chachada, with all his hoods, he embraced him, he enveloped him and covered him up because he wanted to kill him. He wanted to crush him and kill him. So Bhujaya Chachada with his hoods. Bhujaya literally means with his hands, but for him hands means his hoods. With his hoods, he covered that little child and he wanted to crush and kill him. So let me read my translation. My translation is like this. Kaliya saw a tender child, intensely beautiful, a sight ought to be seen. He had the Srivatsa mark and he wore a yellow garment. A subtly sweet smile lit up his lovely face. He played fearlessly in the water, and his feet were soft and tender like the inner portion of a lotus. Seeing this, the wicked Kaliya bit the child on his chest in great anger and then captured and enveloped him in his coils. So, seeing this all the time, you see the cows and the gopas with whom Krishna had gone that day. Balaram was not with them that day. So, they were all watching. First of all, they had just been rescued by him. And by the time they recovered from this thing and they were again going back to their normal activity, they saw Krishna climbing this tree, jumping inside. And the next moment, they see this happening. So, how do they react when they saw all this? It says that they observed that Krishna was completely motionless because he had been now captured by Kaliya in his hoods and his coils, and he was completely motionless. So, seeing this, the Gopas became extremely distressed and they began to lament in great pain, unable to take it. They could not comprehend that their dearmost child, their dearmost friend is now helpless inside the hands of a powerful snake. They fell down to the ground completely senseless because Krishna is their life, He is their everything. And in the meantime, in Vraja, okay, this is all happening in Vrindavan, all this action is happening in Vrindavan, but elsewhere, which is the place where Krishna's house is, so home, where Nanda Baba, Yashodama, they all stay. That's called Vraja here. In Vraja, they could see the people there, they did not know all this happening here, but what they saw was they saw some omens. They saw some very fearsome omens in the land, in the sky, and on their own bodies, suggesting as if something evil was about to happen. Okay, and they were experts. They could make out by looking at certain signs that something is going wrong somewhere. And immediately they realized that on that day, Krishna normally goes with Balaram, his elder brother, but on that day he has gone alone, only with his friends. Balaram is not with them. So they know this, and so they became very scared because they immediately thought something has probably happened to him because Krishna is their life, everything, everything is for them, Krishna only. All the time they're thinking about him, they're existing for him, and their thoughts are always on him. So they thought, now has he left us forever? He's always being attacked by something or the other. Something or the other is coming to him, disturbing him, and he somehow survives. Something always protects him and he survives. But today, has something gone wrong? Has he left us now? Because we are seeing all these omens. Maybe something has happened to him, and they became very disturbed when they saw this. And because they don't know who Krishna really is. Sri Vasudev Ji says they got this anxiety because they don't know who really Krishna is. But Balaram, who was with them, he knows who Krishna is. So he just smiles and he keeps quiet. He can guess what might have happened, but he keeps quiet. And then what happens? So we will continue this Leela in the next class. This Leela has a lot more to it. How does the story proceed, and what do the Vrajvasis do? What do the Gopas do? What do the cows do? Does Krishna come out of this safely? What does Balaram do? So we will listen to all this in more detail. The story goes on. There are a lot of more things to tell you. I didn't want to cover too many things in one class, and so let there be a suspense. And next class we will continue from here. So today we will stop here, and I'll be happy to take your questions, have your comments. Any question other than asking me what happened in this story? Of course, I'm sure you all know what the Kaliya story is, but we should listen to it from the Bhagavatam, how Sri Vasudev describes it in the Bhagavatam. And in the next class, I'm going to narrate to you some shlokas too from the Bhagavatam, how he describes what happened after this. So these stories, actually, these narratives, They take us closer and closer to Bhagwan. Our consciousness becomes purified as we hear. You see, in this particular tale, as we are hearing this, uh, you know, we hear about how the people of Raja, they become very often they become anxious and they think intensely of Krishna. And that is what Krishna wants. That is what gives him so much happiness. And that is what increases happiness for them too. Their constant connection with him as they live through life, as they carry out their activities, as they do everything that they are doing, all the time they're thinking about him. Whether they're thinking about him in anxiety for his welfare, or they're thinking about him in happiness that he's doing good and he's so sweet. They're enjoying, relishing with him. Whichever way they think about him, it constantly increases their sense of happiness. And through the Bhagavatam, Vyasdev ji is telling us that we can also experience it. By listening to the Bhagavatam every day, by reading it every day, by experiencing it every day, we can also experience that same purity. And that is how our material consciousness gets uncovered. We become more and more free. We are able to cope with this world. We are able to make sense of this world and understand what should our priorities be. It is something that another person cannot tell you. It is something that you have to discover for yourself from inside. And that power of discovery comes when we listen to all this. That purification comes as we listen to all this. So I want you to think of some good questions which we can discuss today.
May I ask one question?
Yes, Puneet, please.
Sir, this is not from this today's Leela, but something different. Sir,
Yes, please.
In Bhagavatam, is there any thing written about Radha ji or
Yes,
like?
indirectly, Radha is mentioned as his Paramasevaka.
Okay,
She's his greatest sevaka. She understands him like nobody else understands his mood.
okay. Actually, we have discussing a lot about Vrindavan. When we go to Vrindavan, majorly 99% of the people are more inclined towards the Radha ji rather than Krishna, or they say it's the internal Shakti of a Krishna only. And even the people used to talk like chant every time Radhe Radhe only.
Yeah. Yeah. So Radha represents actually that inner Shakti in him, and that Shakti manifests as a person, right? And that Shakti and he interact with each other in Seva. Both try to do Seva to each other. Seva means what? Seva means that Ekata and Anukulata, with which the mood of Seva is the mood that I'm concerned about the pleasure of the other person. I'm concerned about the happiness of the other person without taking anything in return. It is the opposite of the materialistic mentality. In the material existence, the mentality is what can I get from the other person? What can I give by giving as less as possible? What is the maximum I can get from the other person by giving as less as I can? How can I give less and get more? That is the mentality of material consciousness. Correct? Isn't it? So the opposite of that is the mentality of seva. Seva means how can I give without taking anything in return? What can I do? In what way can I please the other person? I don't want anything in return for myself, even recognition, appreciation. I don't even want the other person to say thank you or recognize me. I don't even want to be known. I don't want the other person to even know that I did it. Right? That is the mood of seva. So whatever pleases that other person, I'm willing to do that. So that is the mood of seva, and this is best found in Krishna. This mood of seva is best found in Krishna, and Krishna has this not only towards Radha, but he has this towards all the living beings. But towards Radha, it comes out in the best possible way because Radha is also is like that. Radha and Krishna are actually the same person and his Shakti. But in that say couple, we see this mood coming out best, right? And we aspire to develop that mood within ourselves. When we develop that bhav in us, then we become eligible to interact with him. He comes to us. We cannot pretend to become like him. We cannot pretend to become like Radha. We cannot pretend that I am now a gopi. See, if you go to today's Vrindavan, sometimes you find people like that who will wear the dress of a gopi, who will dress like wearing a sari and dress like a woman and then dance around thinking I'm Gopi and Krishna is now dancing with me. So this kind of imagination doesn't work there. This is all false imagination, it is stupidity. So real bhav comes from inside. There is no show. Nobody outside can make out what we are thinking inside. This is completely inside. When we are alone, we develop that bhavana towards others. And when we live our life, that bhavana comes out in our activities. It should come out in our activities in the most genuine manner, not by saying it with our mouth. When we say it with our mouth, it has no value. But when we actually have it in our mind, it has value. And that is Radha Bhav or Gopi Bhav.
The question comes to my mind because many the places, or majorly all the places, Radha Krishna is worship rather than Krishna Rukmani or Krishna with his wife. In a
Yes,
lot of temples, only Radha Krishna is worshipped,
yes, because it
especially
transcends
not.
even that relationship of husband and wife. So in husband and wife relationship, there are some formalities. There are some formal rules which govern that relationship, like Rukmini and Krishna. A husband behaves towards his wife in certain ways. A wife behaves towards husband in certain ways. There is an obligation that because I am so and so's wife, I do certain types of activities towards that person. Because I'm so and so's husband, I do certain activities towards the other person. But here in Radha and Krishna Bhav, there is no relationship of that kind. There is no formal, they are not husband and wife. Correct? They are just two individuals. They are born in separate houses and they are just two individuals who have no husband wife relationship. That seva is very pure between them. That is even more pure than the husband and wife seva. So that form is worshipped in Vrindavan, that pure form of Radha and Krishna.
So,
It
but
has
now,
nothing to do with the boyfriend girlfriend relationship in this world. People confuse it. People confuse that Radha Krishna relationship with a romantic relationship of this world. But absolutely, there is no similarity between them. There's no similarity at all between them. They're completely different.
but nowadays, sir, some I can what I can say, the people nowadays, some saints are saying that Radha is the old, same girl which the Krishna married in the form of Rukmani afterwards. There now these stories are there. These mandirs are now developed nowadays. Even in Vrindavan, they have some one mandir. I went to that place. They said Brahmaji came and they married Radha with the Krishna there.
You see, the correct understanding is like this. Krishna's original Shakti, Antaranga Shakti is Radha. And when the same Krishna, you see, after all, he himself manifests himself in different ways, like Vishnu. Different forms of Vishnu are nothing but Krishna's own forms, right? Krishna becomes Vishnu. He appears as Vishnu, and that Shakti, that same Shakti inside him, becomes Lakshmi, Mother Lakshmi. Lakshmi is Radha in a different form. So, in that form as Vishnu and Lakshmi, when they manifest as Vishnu and Lakshmi, they manifest with that formality between them. But when they are manifesting in the original form as Krishna and Radha, there that formality is not present. Do you follow?
Right. Got it.
Both are the same relationship. Only difference is that in one of them there is the bhav with formality. The same seva bhav is there. The same seva bhav with formality, the same seva bhav without formality in Radha and Krishna. But the seva bhav is basically the same. Its essence is ekata anukulata. That ekata is there between them and anukulata is there. Anukul bhav se karte hain seva. You follow?
Mm.
So it is not that we are worshipping like that. It is that is how they manifest. And in different places, they are worshipped in different ways with different moods, depending on the bhakta's understanding. Like in Dwaraka, they are worshipped as Rukmini and Krishna. In Mathura also there is a temple called Dwarakadish temple in today's Mathura.
Yes, yes. I went there, sir.
It's a famous temple there.
Yeah.
So there are different places. He's also called Mathuresha, the Bhagavan of Mathura. In Mathura, his bhav is different from the bhav in Vrindavan, right? He doesn't behave in Mathura the way he behaves in Vrindavan. In Vrindavan, the way he behaves, we are just reading now in the Bhagavatam. How, as a tender little child, he's playing with the gopas. The people in Gokula have no idea. People in Vrindavan have no idea that he's Bhagavan himself. And even for him, in his mind, the thought that I am Bhagavan is not there. He doesn't think of himself as Bhagavan there. But when he comes to Mathura, then it becomes different. All the people in Mathura know that he is Bhagavan, right? For example, when he appears in his Avirbhav, when he comes in the prison house of Kamsa, then what is the first thing that happens? When Vasudeva and Devaki, they see him, the first thing they do is they bow down to him. They bow down to him and they start offering him prayers. Right? He shows them the Vishnu form, the four-handed Vishnu form. And they start offering him prayers. They start saying that you are the source of this material world, you are the source of everything. Everything depends upon you, everything comes from you, everything goes into you. They offer him prayers and he just stands quietly and listens to all those prayers. But in Gokul, when he goes to Gokul, Yashoda and Nanda, they have no idea. In their mind, he's not Bhagavan. He's just a small little baby whom they have to protect. Correct? So the bhav is completely different there. He's just across the river.
Good evening, sir.
Good
I
evening.
have a follow-up question.
Hmm.
So, like you said, that when Sri Bhagwan came himself to the present cell, but the parents started offering their prayers.
Hmm.
So, like right now, we are talking about Sri Krishna as Bhagwan. So
Yeah.
we take his name.
Yeah.
So when when Sri Krishna would have come himself, they would have probably taken the name of Vishnu or some other deity.
Yeah.
So my question is that how is this chain sort of made? Because at some point of time, there would be, I mean, there would be a place where let's say that Vishnu is the creator, then how do people like directly know that this is God? Because like we know right now that there are different roots that Bhagwan takes in different yugs. So let's say if we talk about the first yug, how do we say that this is God? I mean, how do we offer the prayers? The concept of God, how does it originate?
You see, Sri Bhagavan is eternal, means that it is not that he appeared first in the first yuga. The yuga is what we experience in our samsara. He is beyond time, and we are also beyond time in our original nature, in our swarup as Atma. We are beyond time. So we don't experience any yuga there. It's beyond any yuga. So we and Bhagavan are always beyond time. We are called Kutastha. Kutastha means that which is not affected by time, eternally remaining the same. So all Bhagavan's forms, as Krishna, Vishnu, Narayana, any form that you take, all those forms are eternal, eternal manifestations. But to us, when we are in this samsara, when we experience time, like we are experiencing now, so he reveals himself to us along that time. Sometimes he reveals himself in this manner, sometimes in that manner. In different ways, he reveals himself like that. So, according to the way he reveals himself, the rishis, the sages who have comprehended him like that, they describe him, and through their descriptions, we come to know about him. So, currently, for us, the way we are living now, in our history, say 5,000 years back, this happened, all this happened, and Sri Vyasdevji wrote this down in the Mahabharata, Bhagavatam, and so on, and we are now receiving it like that, receiving from him. So, at different points of time, he appears in different ways, and people who are there at that time, they comprehend him in that way. They write about it or they talk about it, and it goes into the population like that. That is how it happens.
Okay.
Does it sort of address what you were wanting to ask?
Uh, yes, but then uh, if let's say 5,000 years from now, or maybe in some other say a parallel universe, uh, instead of the name Krishna, maybe there would be some other name that he would come through,
Yeah,
and then the historians would have written a different name altogether. Is that what you're trying to say?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So in different times, like he comes as Prishni Garbha. This is the third birth as the son
Hmm.
of Vasudeva and Devaki. Uh,
Hmm.
we read that earlier he came in a birth as he was the son of Sutapa and Prishni, and
Hmm.
they had prayed, and then they said that please give us a son who is just like you, and
Hmm.
then he says Tathastu, and then he realizes that there is nobody else who is just like him, so only he has to come. So therefore,
Okay.
because they asked three times, so he blesses them with three births in which he will come as their son. And the first
Okay.
of them is that, Prishni and
Oh.
Sutapa. as the son
Okay.
of Vishnu and Sutapa. And then the son of Kashyapa and Aditi as
Hmm.
Vamana, the second birth.
Hmm.
Third birth is here as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki. The parents are the same, and he
Okay.
comes in three different forms. So
Okay.
Kashyapa and Aditi take birth as Vasudeva and Devaki.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so now to us, he is known as Krishna, and Sri Vasudevji describes in the Bhagavata Krishna as his original form. So we take it like that. That this
Okay.
is the
Okay.
original form in Vrindavan and so on, and we go approach him in that manner when we read the Bhagavata. But like you said, yes, it's quite possible that in some other manifestation, he would have appeared in a different form, in a different name. And
Hmm.
those rishis who received him at that time and wrote about him, talked about him, and taught about him,
Hmm.
people who followed them would understand him in that manner, with that mood,
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
bhav, with those activities. Yes, they would be describing different leelas. They may be describing different leelas than what we are reading now.
Okay. 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 Understood. So thank you. Thank you, sir.
So this way, there are infinite leelas. I mean, he keeps performing so many. Even in the shastra that we have, there are so much. There's so much that one lifetime is not enough to cover them. What we are reading in the Bhagavatam is only a small fraction of what we actually have with us. If you see the Indian knowledge system, as the government of India calls it now, it is so huge. And even the Leelas of Krishna, Vishnu himself, are so many in number, so many which were not even known publicly.
Hmm.
Even our Ramachitra Kathas had not covered them. They
Hmm.
have to be brought out now. So there is a lot to hear, there's a lot to read, there's a lot to learn, and we should make use of this. I mean, there's so much now. The things are coming out more and more. People are being interested in this more and more. In the academic institutions, it has entered now, so it's coming out increasingly, and there's an opportunity for us all to learn. If you can learn Sanskrit, there's so much opportunity for those of you if you're interested in learning Sanskrit and uh, you know developing that side of yourself. There's so much opportunity nowadays for that. Ultimately, the aim is to transform our consciousness, like I have been saying in the beginning also. By doing this, we become more and more sattvic. Our rajoguna, tamoguna comes down. We become more sattvic. And as we become more sattvic, more clarity comes. And as we get more clarity, we get more inspiration, and so on. So it's a reinforcing process. It reinforces itself and we go upwards. We elevate ourselves. We just have to put ourselves on that track. Om स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण महिं महिषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यो शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे धन्यवादाः पुनर्मिलामः